The views and opinions expressed in this channel are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the views of our guests. The views and the opinions of the guest do not represent nor reflect the views and opinions of the Lockoutmen channel, nor its host. Our guests' opinions are their own. This channel is for educational, entertainment, and informational purposes only, and utilizes fair use materials in accordance with applicable laws.
What if you was barreling down a slick mountain pass in the middle of the night? It's pouring rain and there's no shoulder. And you got about 40 pounds in a box behind you. Now, let me ask you this question. Would you trust a computer to pick the right gear for you? Or if you like an old school driver, you will want full control in your own hands.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
What's going on, drivers? Welcome back to the channel. I am Lockoutmen, and today we're going to go ahead and continue the debate that still managed to stir a lot of strong opinions in the trucking game right here. And you want to know what that is? It is automatics versus manual. And I know somebody out there is already typing, well, hey, it doesn't even matter because everything is going to automatics anyway. Well, driver, that is true. A lot of companies have already went the way of the automatics. But that doesn't mean that the conversation don't stop. It doesn't mean that the conversation is over. Not even by a long shot, driver. So listen to me. Let's kick this off with a comment that I saw in one of my videos, right?
Hold on.
Having a manual CDL is for bragging rights at this point. Most, if not all, carriers use automatics.
That's what the commenter said about the manuals, right? He pretty much said that it's all about bragging rights. And look, I'm not knocking his opinion, right? But it's one of those comments that makes you stop and go, we still got to talk about this topic. Because there is some truth in there, but there is always more to the story. Now, drivers, listen, I'm just here to give my own opinion, and that's about it, my own commentary. Nothing serious, and it's just my take on what I see out here, right? And when it comes to manuals versus automatics, I am for sure the one that say, hey, give me an automatic any day, right? But I'm not going to knock the fact that there is a lot of advantages when it comes to having a manual. See, it's not about bragging, driver. See, manual transmissions give you way more control over the rig, right? Especially in bad weather, steep grades, or even tight spots where you need to put a little bit of feather on that clutch, right? See, automatics are fine for highway cruising. But when you're backing into a dock at about 2 o'clock in the morning and it's raining, or coming down one of those mountain paths, that automatic right there, we're going to trade that because a manual gives you more options than an automatic can't even match. You see, some drivers actually care about being able to handle the equipment properly instead of just letting a computer do the thinking. But hey, listen, driver, if you're cool with being limited to whatever gears that the automatic think you should be in, then hey, that's cool. Go for it. Now, drivers, listen, I'm not just talking from a standpoint. I am talking from experience, right? Because experienced drivers will tell you that a manual is a hell of a lot better than automatics any day. Here's how I see it, right? The debate between automatics and manuals really depend on what kind of driver you are, where you run, and what you value, right? Because the reality is, even though that the commenters' comment may be right, majority of the carriers have gone to automatics. Just about every carrier has changed over to automatics. Why? It's easier for training, low risk on transmission, less wear and tear, and definitely help bring in more new drivers quickly. So guys, from a business standpoint, it pretty much makes sense. But drivers, listen, from a driving standpoint, that's where things get kind of tricky, right? See, here's what you lose with automatics, right? Automatics are great for highway work, and they're easier to learn. But when things get complicated, like winter driving in the Rockies, or try to hit a dock that's about 3 inches wider than your trailer, sometimes you need a little bit more finesse than the computer can give you. See, that's where manuals come into play. See, downshifting on a hill without overheating your brakes, creeping through a yard full of potholes without lurching you forward, handling ice and snow with gear control rather than hoping the auto don't slip up. See, not only that, drivers, you're limiting your future if you don't drive a manual, right? See, here's the thing. If your CDL is automatic restricted, you're pretty much locking yourself out of other opportunities. Opportunities like flatbed companies, heavy haul, and some specialty carriers that still runs manual trucks. See, you might not need to use it every day, but having the option to drive a manual gives you a lot of flexibility. And see, plenty of older trucks on the market are manuals. They're cheaper, easier to maintain in some ways, and you don't want to happen to turn down a solid deal just because your license says no stick shift. See, personally, I learned a manual, right? I still prefer a manual when I know I'm running through tricky terrains or backing up into tight-ass spots. See, that clutch lets me feel the truck. It gives me that connection between the seat, the pedal, and the pavement. Now, that does not mean I think automatic-only drivers are lesser, though. No, but I do think you should care about knowing the equipment that you drive, whether it's a stick and or an auto, because one day when the computer glitches out, you're dealing with a malfunction. Your so-called bragging rights might be what saves your load. See, driving the truck isn't about getting from point A to point B. It's about knowing how to handle the truck inside and out. Look, drivers, we're in a new era of trucking. That's a fact. Automatic transmissions are everywhere, and that's not changing anytime soon. But don't confuse convenience with compatibility, though. See, having a manual CDL isn't about ego. It's about options. It's about control. It's about being ready for the unexpected. And drivers, for some of us, it's also about respecting the craft of driving, though. Not just clocking miles and letting the rig figure it out. So if you're new to the game and you got a chance to get trained on a manual, my suggestion to you is to take it. Even if you never drive one again, you'll always have the knowledge, and no one can never take that from you. Drivers, I appreciate you guys listening to me and staying with me to the end. I'll come back at you with another one. Peace.
Automatics versus manuals. It's not just about the gearbox, it's about how much of the truck you're letting go of. If you've got thoughts on this, drop a comment below. Are you all about that automatic life? Or do you still grab gears the old school way? Like, comment, subscribe. And if you've got a story or topic you want me to cover on the next episode, hit me up at lockoutmenpodcastguest@gmail.com.